What's going on, everyone? Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through some of the top winners and losers after the first week and change of Falcons training camp. Now, before we start, make sure to like today's video. If you enjoy the content we put out, it would greatly help grow the channel. So with that being said, let's get into our first winner, which Captain Obvious, and you've heard it all over the place, but I would not be doing my job correctly if I did not lead with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been such a breath of fresh air compared to the last couple of quarterbacks and just quarterback play, I'd say, the last 3 years. The last year, Matt Ryan, Falcons legend. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. We all know that. But we can all admit, 2021 Matt Ryan wasn't the best. He was better than what followed, though, of Mariota, Ritter, and Heinicke. And I think Falcons fans, and not just fans, but also the front office learned, man, were we spoiled. We had nearly 15 years of consistent quarterback play, never had to do a quarterback search, and, man, they quickly found out how much that sucked and decided, yeah, we're going to spend $180 million, so we never have to do that again. But Kirk Cousins has been as advertised. I mean, he comes off a season where, sure, he unfortunately had to cut short due to the Achilles injury, but before then, the guy was throwing 18 touchdowns in 8 games. He was on pace for, stats-wise, the best year of his NFL career. He would have been right up against 5,000 yards, 18 touchdowns in 8 games. He was going to be clearing over 30 touchdown passes. And I think the best thing we've seen out of Kirk Cousins is there's been no injury fatigue or concerns. Like Kirk Cousins joked that they were doing an 11-on-11 drill in the red zone, I think, and he decided to tuck in and run. No one was open. He picked up 6 yards. Raheem Morris ran on the field screaming, blow the whistle, stop the play, because he did not like seeing his quarterback running with it coming off an Achilles injury. And Cousins said, I think I gave Raheem Morris a bit of a heart attack, but it just goes to show he can still move, he can still play football. There's not days where Cousins goes, you know what, the Achilles is kind of flaring up, I'm going to take off today. That has not been a concern. It's not been an issue. And that was probably the biggest concern and biggest issue when you decide to go sign Kirk Cousins at his age with that injury. Now, before we get to the next winner or loser from training camp, if you're excited for legit quarterback play to come back to the ATL, hit that thumbs up button down below. It hasn't been there the last 2 years, kind of 3 years, but, Matt Ryan looks a whole lot better than 2022 and 2023 quarterbacks. So if you are just excited that you no longer have to go through that absolute hellhole of just no idea who your next quarterback's going to be for the long term, hit that thumbs up button. First loser, I've got cornerback Clark Phillips. I don't think Clark Phillips is a loser, but I think that the way the depth chart is shaken out, he's not where I thought he'd be, and I think where he thought he would be, right? Mike Hughes has claimed that CB2 job opposite of A.J. Terrell. Defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake has been very outspoken or very upbeat, I should say, about Mike Hughes. So we're seeing some support and overall encouragement coming from his own coach. So I thought it'd be Clark Phillips starting at CB2. And listen, we still have a long ways to go until week 1 against Pittsburgh. But for the time being, it is let's ride Mike Hughes, right? If he's going to be the starting cornerback on this team with Terrell, let's embrace it and let's hope for the best. Am I going to be a big better on Mike Hughes having a phenomenal year? Not really. I know that's not what you want to hear. And during training camp, all 32 fan bases just want to be told good news. And I understand, I'm the same way. We've waited so long for football. You don't want to start football returning with bad news. But, I'm going to be a little bit on the I'll believe it when I see it side. Mike Hughes, former first-round pick by the Vikings. He played last year with Atlanta, mostly as a backup. Year before that, 1 season in Detroit. Then year before that in Kansas City. I mean, we can check out his Pro Football Focus grades the last 3 years where he has seen the most amount of snaps after being pretty much just a special teamer with the Vikings to start his career. I mean, the PFF grades and ranks, they kind of speak for themselves. They're not the only way to evaluate players. They're just a tool, but yeah, that's why I'm in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. And I was a little bit more upbeat about Clark Phillips because I liked the pick when it was made. Great ball production. And overall, with Mike Hughes, I feel like you kind of know what you're getting. Whereas With Clark Phillips, there's a little bit of the unknown, and the unknown could be really good or it could be really bad, but I like rolling the dice on the really good. So for now, it looks like it's Mike Hughes, which kind of means Clark Phillips is a little bit of a loser, but you know what I mean, through the first week of training camp. All right, before we move on to our next winner, if you want to get started with Game Time, listen up because they're going to have awesome deals for Dirty Birds when it comes to getting Braves tickets, Falcons preseason tickets, or any other sporting event in your local area. So download the Game Time app today, and when you do, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Now, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Now, take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Terms apply, but download the Game Time app and use code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Kirk Cousins has been the biggest winner so far through camp, but right on his heels, his tight end Kyle Pitts. If you want to sound smart in front of your friends and you haven't really consumed too much of Falcons training camp, just say the following: Kyle Pitts is back, because that's the way he has looked so far throughout training camp. Michael Scott moment, I am prepared to get hurt again. Like, we have all been on this road. We've all drafted Kyle Pitts too early in our fantasy leagues. We've all been disappointed. But this year's different. This year it's really different for two main reasons. Reason number one, he's healthy. It was evident to start last year in training camp, Pitts was still really working his way back from the knee surgery, and that lingered into the season. But once he got healthy, don't you think the production would have been better? Yeah, sure. Except he had dog water quarterback play. There was a carousel and a back and forth going on between Ritter and Heinicke, and Pitts got somewhat lost in the shuffle, and now there's some blood on his hands for being underwhelming. It's not completely, absolved from his wrongdoings. Like, there's things he can work on, but so far throughout training camp, Kyle Pitts, and this is so cliche, I hate myself, but he's looked like he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, he truly does look like he is back to what he looked like, kind of not just coming out of Florida, but after his rookie season. Like, just from a physicality standpoint, the size and speed, he's a unicorn, and it's showing on the practice field. So, yeah, he's been a big winner so far at training camp. He has looked awesome. Now, what is your confidence level in Kyle Pitts? Scale it for me, 1 to 10. Put that number in the comment section below. Be honest, I'd put myself at a 7.7. I can't go above an 8. Like, I need to see it a little bit before I can truly go that high, but I'm definitely buying some Kyle Pitts stock. Now, my second loser, I'm going to go with third-string quarterback Taylor Heinicke. Yeah, you heard me. Third string. He was the second string back in the spring. Michael Penix has passed Taylor Heinicke on the quarterback depth chart. Now it goes Kirk Cousins, undoubted QB1. That does not have to be said, but just in case it does. And then Michael Penix, and then Taylor Heinicke. So then the question starts to become, okay, if Heinicke's not even the backup, do you want to have that big of a cap investment in your third-string quarterback? Maybe, maybe not. So that's where someone like John Paddock, a UDFA from Illinois, he might creep onto the roster. He might not be better than Heinicke, but he's a whole lot cheaper. And the Falcons may decide, we're just not going to have that big of a contract and cap hit for someone who's not even our backup quarterback. So for Heinicke, he's got to prove, like, I'm worthy of that cap hit, even if I am just the third-string quarterback. Today's trivia question, I'll admit, is tough. I did not know the answer before I looked it up myself. Can you name the last Falcons defensive coordinator who held that role for 3 straight seasons? You don't have to go back way too far, but you got to go back a little bit. So I'll be impressed if anyone can get this correct. Last Falcons DC to hold down the fort for 3 consecutive seasons. Third and final winner, I've got to go with defensive tackle Eddie Goldman. You talk to anyone that's been to Falcons training camp so far, and a couple of names tend to surface. Kyle Pitts, Kirk Cousins, Jesse Bates. They're kind of expected. They're stars. They should surface. But Eddie Goldman's a name that I did not expect to hear, and I keep hearing his name. Now, Eddie Goldman's got an interesting story. He was a second-round pick by the Bears almost a decade ago at this point, believe it or not. He leaves Chicago in free agency after 2021, signs with the Falcons. He never plays a single preseason snap with the Falcons because he retired not once, but twice. But now Eddie Goldman has come back again, and this time it looks like it is for real. So I'm excited to see what Eddie Goldman can bring to the table this year. I think at the very least, he's going to be an above-average rotational interior defensive lineman. I mean, there are certain positions that don't leave the field. Corner, safeties, those guys play 100% of the snaps. Your defensive linemen, they rotate in and out. Now, when you take off your number one defensive tackle like Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, you hope that the other team does not exploit that weakness on the field. When your backup is a starter like Eddie Goldman, because all he did in Chicago was start, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable about rotating your interior D linemen. Now, the Falcons, it's no secret, they don't have a ton of proven talent at the exterior edge rusher position. They're hoping for a big year from Arnold Ebiketie. They're hoping that Lorenzo Carter, kind of switching back to a 3-4 defense, can kind of get back to where he was in 2022. But there's no guy on this team that's got 10 sacks in his NFL career. So if you're not going to have someone who's been a proven edge rusher, you're not going to get that from the outside very much. Do you know where quarterbacks hate getting pressure from the most? Interior defensive line. So if you're not going to get it from the exterior, let's get it from the interior. Now, before we get on out of here, shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you are tuning in from. Always great to see where people are watching from. This fan base knows no boundaries. It stretches from coast to coast. So get in the chat and shout out your city for me down below. Now, that Falcons trivia question for today. The last Falcons defensive coordinator for 3 straight seasons. Any guesses? Answer coming up in 3, 2, 1. That would be Mike Nolan from 2012 to 2014. We'll go back to the Mike Smith era. So Mike Nolan, who after Atlanta, he went to Dallas, and I don't know where he went after that. So let's see if anyone got the question correct, but I appreciate everyone for watching. We're going to sign off. We'll let you guys get back to the rest of your day. Appreciate everyone for hanging out with us all the way to the end of the video. If you're still watching, remember to like, subscribe, all those cliches. But go one step further. Shout out your city for me. That way I know who watches all the way until the end of the video.